The final judgment, the new earth, and Christ's reign of peace. End-time prophecies and instructions from Jesus through Berta Dude. The rapture of the little flock before the final judgment. Who will be raptured? Only the Christians who, despite all the persecutions of faith, continue to act according to Jesus' will and remain faithful to him until his return, will be taken away from the earth. It will only be a small crowd, however. How large will the multitude of the raptured ones be? No number is mentioned. Only a small flock will be part of the rapture. How can believers become part of the rapture? Faith in Jesus as God, adherence to his teachings, love for him and one's neighbor, faithfulness and open confession of Jesus, perseverance and steadfastness during the battle of faith. All of this will bring about salvation through the rapture. Where will these believers be? Faithful Christians live all over the world. Therefore, the rapture will likewise take place everywhere. How will they know that the rapture is imminent? They will experience the return of Jesus as well as their imminent rapture from within or without. When and how will the rapture take place? It will occur at a time when hardship and tribulation appear to become unbearable. Who can understand the rapturing process? The process of the rapture is understandable and therefore believable only for people who have a deep understanding of it. Unbelievers will not believe in a rapture and, as such, will not understand any such event. How will those who are left behind react? Those who are not among the visibly raptured ones will now understand that the predictions of such an event are a reality. That's why their horror, fear, and panic, and their weeping and wailing will be great. Will the visible rapture still be able to save some last unbelievers? Due to the visible rapture of the Christians, the unbelievers will have a last chance for realization, conversion, and returning to God, that is, Jesus. However, their conversion must happen of their own free will. Where will the raptured ones go? The little Christian flock raptured in the physical body will be taken to a spiritual, Edenic, peaceful, and earth-like environment. After the reformation of the earth, they will return to it in a new physical body. Will the raptured ones populate the renewed earth? The raptured ones will form the parent tribe for a new period of redemption upon the renewed earth. They are spiritually far advanced and will live a life for and with Jesus. They will pass the knowledge of the past era and the end on to the descendants upon the new earth. The final judgment, the end of this period of mankind by the scorching of the surface of the earth. How long has a judgment by fire been predicted as the final divine judgment? Prophets have predicted a final judgment by fire for earth and mankind for a long time. Will people believe the warnings and prophecies? Almost all people doubt a complete destruction of the earth's surface and mankind by fire as a final judgment. Can this final judgment still be averted or postponed? God has always known the will and inclination of the people. He knows the development process and puts an end to it if a certain measure of erroneous development is exceeded. The time that has been predetermined for this since eternity will therefore not be cancelled or postponed. What is the purpose of the final judgment? The final judgment decides on the state of the soul and its fate. Depending on the character, behavior, deeds, and faith of a person, it will either have a preserving and protective effect, or a judging, retaliatory, atoning, and punishing effect. What will the circumstances and the lifestyles be like right before the final judgment? Materially speaking, out of the chaos of the natural catastrophe from the cosmos, order will be restored for the followers of the Antichrist, and material prosperity will return. On the other hand, the not raptured Christians, as well as all other believers, will be persecuted, disadvantaged, and plunged into the most bitter poverty. In the end, all believers shall be killed. The godless and sinful conditions are similar to those at the time before Noah's flood, but they are much worse this time around. Warnings of the imminent end are ignored. What signs point to the final judgment? The catastrophe from the cosmos is the last and largest warning before the actual end. After that, merely individual volcanic eruptions, cracks in the earth, magma discharges, and earthquakes warn of the imminent, complete destruction of the Earth's surface. Unusual unrest will manifest in both people and animals directly before the Day of Judgment. These last warnings will be ignored as well by the worldly people. When will the final judgment by fire occur? An exact year or date for the final judgment by fire is not predicted, which is for the good of mankind. It will come as a surprise for almost all people, since hardly anyone believes in the possibility of such events ever occurring. The actual trigger for the imminent final judgment by fire will be when the followers of the Antichrist set out to kill the last faithful Christians. That is when the days will be shortened, and the sudden and unexpected return of Jesus, the rescue of the still living believers, and the destruction of the earth's surface take place. People must be informed about the imminent end, paying attention to the admonitions and warnings of the end times. They must constantly adjust to them and live accordingly. The period and conditions of the end times have been prophesied for a long time now. However, based on various prophecies of Jesus between 22 and 24 AD, the time frame of the final end time events can be narrowed down to a few years. Will the day of the end come as a surprise to everyone? The prophetic announcements of the end of mankind and the earth, which have existed for a long time, remained and will remain unnoticed by most people until the event occurs. Not only for the people of the world who do not believe the prophecies of the end, but also for believers with knowledge of it, will the end ultimately come suddenly and surprisingly. Will the experiments in the depths of the earth trigger the utter destruction of the earth's surface? The followers of the Antichrist will trigger forces within the depths of the earth by irresponsible, localized experiments, without being aware of the repercussions of their actions, which, in the end, they will not be able to stop anymore. They will inadvertently set off explosive chain reactions within the earth and bring about their own destruction. They sacrifice living people as test objects for their experiments. Since God does not tolerate such irresponsible and sacrilegious experiments, which stem from a craving for fame, an excessive need for recognition, and greed for material goods, He allows the atomic destruction of the earth to happen. Without having sufficient knowledge and understanding, they shall, for the sake of profit, release localized forces through deep drillings. However, as soon as these experiments succeed, the following chain reaction is no longer limitable, and everything explosively shatters into atomic components. This will happen to the entire surface of the earth, even down to great depths. Satan drives the researchers to these experiments in order to destroy the earth, and thereby terminate the spiritual development that is taking place upon it. In doing so, however, he facilitates the creation of a renewed earth by God. Through the dissolution of everything, the shattering of matter into atoms, and the release of the spiritual elements therein, new exterior forms can now be molded with the matching spiritual components. What is the sequence of events that constitute the utter destruction of the Earth's surface? The final judgment in the form of the scorching of the Earth's surface and the destruction of everything living within, upon, and above it lasts only a few hours. Magma eruptions through fissures in the earth, violent earthquakes, flames emerging from the depths, volcanic eruptions, a veritable rain of fire, uproar of all elements, floods and enormous storms. All of this taken together will bring about the utter destruction of the Earth's surface. No stone will remain atop the other. The roaring thunder throughout the disastrous events signals the deafening voice of God, waking up the spiritually sleeping mankind, since the previous, quiet admonitions and warnings were overheard continually. People will be consumed by the flames emerging from the bowels of the earth, and they will fall into the abyss. However, the destruction of the earth from within and the atmospheric ignition will proceed at different rates all around the globe. How will the people react to this event? There will be no escape, for the same judgment will be recognizable everywhere. Fright, horror, confusion, helplessness, hopelessness, powerlessness, indescribable panic, and fear of death will dominate the people of the world. Will only the Earth's surface or the entire Earth be destroyed? The entire surface of the Earth will be scorched down to great depths, but the core and the Earth as a whole will remain. With these events will this era of mankind and Earth history end. However, the Earth's surface must be completely redesigned in order to continue to be habitable for human beings. Who will meet his end in the judgment of fire? The people who have turned away from God, pledged allegiance to Satan, served the Antichrist, and lived purely worldly lives will find their death during the final judgment of fire. They have not believed and are filled with wickedness and falsehood, and so the earth will swallow them up in a lake of fire. For which unbelievers is salvation possible? Since God gives every person, even the most wicked and erring, opportunities to recognize their errors, to change their thinking and behavior, and to return to God, conversion and thus salvation from a renewed banishment is indeed possible, even until the very last moment. After their death, they arrive in the spiritual world and will be able to incarnate on the new earth, striving to develop higher and higher. However, those who persist in their resistance are lost without salvation and are banished into matter. Will survival only be possible through the rapture? Salvation from the final judgment by fire will only be granted to those who have remained faithful to God, that is, Jesus, even during the most difficult battle of faith against the Antichrist and his followers. They will consciously witness the destruction of the earth and the doom of the wicked and bad. Banishment of incorrigible opponents of God into matter. Renewed banishment. What does banishment into matter mean exactly? If a human being completely departs from God, constantly transgresses the divine order, and all its striving is for the acquisition of material goods and enjoyment, the soul hardens. After the death of the body, such a human soul is dissolved into individual soul particles. It is then banished into matter and has to restart its development from square one through all the kingdoms of nature, until it can become a free human soul once again.